Share laughter your needs. How is everybody? We pray that you are well. I am IFA Jamini Ray.
I am IFA Bullshit.
And you were tuned into
the best,
the greatest
podcast
on the planet Earth.
Let's talk IFA. I say, yes.
Ire Loco, Bobo Ire to all of our listeners, to our viewers. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe to Let's Talk IFA.
So what do we have in store for this great podcast?
Today's podcast, age does not make you an elder.
Ouch.
That's what we're talking about today.
Okay.
Age does not make you an elder.
What does that mean?
First of all, shout out to all the true elders out there. All the true elders that are in touch with us, that reach out to and help the ones that are coming up behind them in their communities to make sure that everything is sustainable and everything continues. Shout out to the elders that continue to grow and elevate and gain more wisdom and more knowledge and more insight, and that are also turning around to be a good example and lead by example and help the younger generation to come up. So shout out to all of our actual elders.
I said.
We pay homage. So.
Yes. So age does not make you an elder. I would say, what makes an elder?
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
You know, I think it comes from our community. Those cycles of life, when you go through those cycles of life from 7, and once you hit 60, I think it's 64, it's like you become an elder now. When you hit 49 marks the period when you are now not just trying to figure out what you can do for yourself, but what you can do for your community. And at that age is when, in Yoruba culture, is when a chief or a person that has done great work in their family and their communities, they receive a title at that age. Around 49, 50 is when you receive a title. Like
after you've been doing the work.
After you've been doing something. Not just for yourself,
right,
but for the community, right? So you become a chief. You become a responsible leader for your community. You're not an elder yet until you show and prove with that title,
right,
and the new responsibilities, and all of the people you have influenced. When you hit about 60, 64 is when you become an elder. It's when your community holds you up and raise you up and celebrate you being an elder. Right? Because you have put into your community. You have put into your family. You have helped the less fortunate. That's when your community can say, now he's an elder. We can go to this elder for wisdom, for guidance, for understanding.
So, the opposite of that is somebody who's reached that age of, let's say, 64 or 65, and they're still repeating the same bad habits or the same things that they have been going through for their entire life, that they have not grown or evolved. Sometimes jokingly, I say they're still at the party. Like, they still, they
shaking a leg and buck dancing.
It's doing too much, and they haven't really grown in that wisdom and that exhibiting that lifestyle that shows the younger ones that, okay, I used to do this, but now I don't do this anymore. You have some people that reach that age of 64, 65, and they're still repeating the same
Still
mistakes.
going to the club.
I'm not going to say it's a problem with that, but
no, they're going to the club with the young folks.
It depends on, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. They going to the club like they still 25 and 30 doing the same things that they did. You shouldn't be doing the same thing the same way that you did it when you're 65 and going out and doing the same way you did it when you were 25 and 35. So, that is, when you reach that age, you're not an elder. You're just an older person, right? An elder is not just, your age. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you conduct yourself. It's the example that you lead. And I heard somebody say this a while ago. I said, you could have 30 years experience at doing something, or you can have 1 year experience 30 times. Meaning that year after year, you're not really elevating. You live in that same first year over and over and over, and you're not growing, you're not learning from your mistakes, you're still not where you should be as an elder.
I think some people, they miss out on certain, I like to always refer to the cycles of life, because like at 21, right? 21 is the test of peers. This is the test to see how you can relate to your peer group. And if you don't pass that stage, you basically shucking and jiving around. You know what I mean? If you're not in some type of institution or school or something like that, and you're not trying to know people, you're not relating to people, you're not, it's like, and you miss out on that at 28 or in your 30s, and you missed out on that, it's like you can't reclaim that anymore. So there's a blank spot in your growth and development. You missed out on something because you were shucking and jiving, you was playing around, you was messing around, you behind. So once you hit your 40s, that's when they say you can go through some type of midlife crisis, because you've been shucking and jiving from 14 as a teenager, just trying to slick your way through, and now you 42, and you having a hard time. You know what I'm saying? You still staying with your mama. You know what I mean? You all of those things. You don't want to pay no bills.
You want your lady to pay all the bills.
Right, and so you didn't missed out because you was shucking and jiving and playing around. And so now you almost approaching your 50s, and what now?
And you in the space of a 25-year-old.
Right.
You know.
Or an 18-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time, even with our brothers and sisters that go to prison. Especially our brothers, the ones that get locked up at 17, 18, 19 and do 10 years and come home, and now they 27 and 28.
They missed out.
Boy, it's real rough for them, because they missed out on some key years where they should have been developing as men. And then during incarceration, when they get out, you really got to have your mind right to kind of like catch up and get back on the right track. Those are crucial years to your growth and development as a man.
Right. And, can spirituality fix that? IFA has the ability to change one's destiny or their ill luck, as they say, into good luck. So I think IFA has the capability of solving that problem. But if you're not willing to accept that wisdom and you having a hard time and you fighting against it,
Right.
you're gonna stay stuck.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you gotta play catch up fast. You know what I mean?
Right.
You gotta catch up fast. And elders don't. Those elders who refuse to deal with young people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think it's something that they might have missed out in their youth and in their growth as a youth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of elders out there that don't want to have nothing to do with the youth. I remember one time when I was living in Atlanta, and my mechanic, he was an elder,
Mm-hmm.
and he was working on my vehicle, and some young guys, walked by, and they were just like, they were smoking and stuff like that, and he was like, see, that's why I don't mess with these youth. I don't mess with these youth, because all they want to do is smoke and things like that. So I was like, I said, I know. I said, well, sometimes, we have to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just talk to them.
You can't throw them away.
Invite them over and
Yeah.
show them how to do something.
Yeah.
Then, that's what they're going to continue, because you never know. You might say something to these youth, and you might say, let me show you how to, work on this engine or something like that. And then they might get interested.
Yeah.
That'll keep them off the street.
Right.
But if we don't try,
Yeah.
as elders, if we don't try to show them something, and we don't try to communicate with them, and we just see them like, oh, they just walk.
You just throw them away. You generalize them.
Right. And so he was like, see that? And then he kind of disagreed with me on that. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then later on, he began to tell me some things that happened to him in his youth where he missed out on certain things because his dad wasn't around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, it's like you have a hard time putting into youth because you was rejected.
And, that can make it go one way or the other. Usually, you either going to do the opposite because you see the effect that it had on you, and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to make it a point to not do that.
Right.
Or you just going to do the same thing that was done to you.
Right.
I see
so
it all the time.
That depends on that.
Depends on you.
Elder. It depends, right.
Yeah, it depends on the person. It
Right.
just, some people are affected. I know people that suffer from abandonment issues
Right.
from their parents, and they turn around and do the same thing to their son. Right? I'm talking about personal, people that I know, sons or daughters or whatever. So either they're gonna make that decision to not be like that, or they're gonna be like that. I don't know the psychology behind that, because for me, I don't understand it. But it is what it is. And then, I was that youth that he talked about that was walking down the street smoking. You know what I'm saying? So you can't throw everybody away.
Right. Because some youth have a certain emotional, different emotional balances, I guess.
And just because you see them walking down the street smoking don't mean they, that they bad people. Like they criminals or that they deadbeats or whatever.
But this is what I was saying.
That don't mean nothing.
But this is what I was saying to him.
Right.
Like, you don't know, like all this, a lot of
You just
you
ready
can't
to
smoke,
throw them away, yeah.
Right, you just can't, like, call them over.
Right.
If you're sitting and you working on a car, say, hey, young man, I need your help with something. Can you
Might
hold
be
this for me?
A genius.
Right. Can you hold this for me while I tighten this up?
Right.
He might get interested.
Yeah.
Once he do it and you accomplish that, he feels good about himself.
Bang.
He didn't help you with a project,
Yeah.
and so he might get interested and begin to ask you questions. Well, how can I do what you're doing?
Yeah.
You just never know. So elders, this is for our elders out there. Please don't reject the youth. No matter what type of situation they're in, no matter how they look, let's not reject our youth. Let's bring them closer.
And elders, let's not be messy. And let's be upstanding and be helpful and be positive and be, because that's the example that the younger generation, men and women, need to be looking at and looking up to. That's what we were talking about earlier. This age does not make you an elder just because you're older. You have to carry yourself a certain way to to kind of get that respect that an elder gets.
Deserve.
Just because you old,
Yeah.
or you're older, but you nasty and you negative and you know argumentative and and all those things, people are not gonna respect you and they're not gonna really like you. And you can't just call out, oh, I'm the elder. You gotta know.
Yeah,
You gotta respect me. Like, no, nobody wants to deal with that.
I tell you, there's a lot of people that come in this tradition just to get a do by name.
The ego.
The
Just for
ego.
people to could do by later them.
Right. And it's like, I'm an elder. You hear those things.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm an elder, you supposed to do by lay to me. You know, and it's like, that's not how you approach that. You don't really have to say anything. Because if that youth sees
If you command that respect.
right, if the youth or whoever's younger than you sees your energy, sometimes you ain't got to say
You don't have to
nothing.
say
But when
nothing.
you walk in a place and they see you, it's like they may just automatically do it.
Mhm.
But, you know, there's a lot of elders
They will.
that I've seen, like, force do by lays. You know what I mean?
And
It's
if
like
you gotta do that, that
forcing
ain't it.
respect.
Yeah, that's
And
not
then you
it.
shouldn't have to, as an elder, you shouldn't have to force respect from young people.
That's
Now,
right.
I can understand if it's mother and the father or,
Mhm.
you know, the elders that's been around you and you know that, you know who they are and you know the things that they've done and the youth don't give them that respect. You know what I mean? Like, do by laying in the morning to your elders, greeting your elders. I think, you know, a youth need to do that anyway because it comes through birth.
Right.
You know, when you grow up in your household, you supposed to, your mother and father, who are your isheshe. A lot of people say, well, I'm isheshe. I be hearing this stuff that people say, I'm isheshe based off of the ile they from or the type of eyeballs or whatever. And it's like, no, your isheshe is your mother and father. Let's start there. Do you do ballet to them in the
Your
morning?
lineage, yeah.
Do you greet your mother and father in the morning? This is for the youth. I'm talking to the youth because that's where it starts at. It starts at in the home,
Daniel.
right? So I say a true Isheshe person honors their father and their mother's lineage first, and then once they get that learning, then they go out in the community and they automatically respect their elders. They don't have to worry about if that elder is of bad behavior or whatever. They just do it,
Yeah.
you know, in honor of just the culture and
Right.
the traditional practice.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so this is what I'm saying to the youth because we do have to respect our elders, but also the elders have to understand that if you're acting like a youth,
Right.
then then you showing the youth that you on their level, and so they're gonna say, oh, he a peer member.
Right. They're gonna treat you more
They're
like
gonna
a peer
treat you
than
like
an
a
elder.
peer than an
That's how
elder.
you carry yourself.
Right. So, you know, these are the things in our culture. There's a hierarchy. You know what I mean? It starts at the top, and then it trickles on down. You know what I mean? And in Yoruba culture, there's classes as well. You have your elder class of elders. You have your class of middle age. You have your class of youth. And those are the classes. Those are what we call like the egg bays, the institutions, you know, like male and female institutions. Yoruba culture is made up of a lot of institutions. But those elder institutions shows that these are the elders that are real elders.
Right.
This is what they've done.
Right.
These are the mid-age who are growing to become elders. So those elders over there have to pass the wisdom down to these middle age that's up and coming,
Right.
and then the middle age pass it on down to the
To the
youth.
younger ones, and the youth pass it on to the super youth.
Right.
You know,
So
you see that when
right.
you go, you know, across the water, and that's something that we need to kind of duplicate more over here.
Right.
Is what you see, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, is the older ones having a negative influence on the younger ones instead of a positive influence. So that's part of what, you know, the Rites of Passage program
Sure.
is for, right? So that's coming soon.
Mhm.
Very proud of that and excited for that. So we have a couple of Odu as well that we're going to be referencing. The first one is Obey, Odi, Obey on the right, Obey Lotun, Odi Losi.
And so Obedi, if I says here, a baby can have tens of incarnations while a frail old man has only a few. Cast IFA for the elder who bowed down in respect to the superior reasoning of a much younger person. So this Odu is not, when you hear that the elder bowed down to the youth, it's not really, it's not saying that the elder like dropped down, but the elder is respecting the development of the youth, and the elder is giving that youth the necessary tools that that youth needs to carry on what the elder has established.
And it's also talking about how the elder might be the elder, but the elder also realizes that they can learn from the youth as well as the youth learning from the elder, right? So that's what we're talking about here.
And the elder realizes that he or she was once a youth.
I say.
In that position.
Ben.
Right? And so it's a balance there. It's respect on both sides. Obedi, when water touches the earth, a path is created.
Say.
Elders and leaders who have offered their wisdom for new generations to build upon.
I say.
Right? Again, this is saying here that the passing down of the torch, so that the elders passing the torch to the youth, to those youth who are responsible to carry on to the next generation, to elevate, to develop the next generation. Ashe.
Benny.
Elder, okay. And then, this is what Ifa says in this Odu as well. Ologbon adomuga lai logbon inu. This means the person who fails to make use of their wisdom becomes a fool.
Say that one more time, brother.
Those who make use of their wisdom, the person who fails to make use of their wisdom becomes a fool. So in Obedi it says, an elder who does not pass on their wisdom becomes a fool. And so we've seen a lot of elders transition and they didn't pass on anything to the youth.
Pass it on.
And so they are forgotten. You got to pass on wisdom in order to be remembered, in order to be honored, in order to be respected, even in your transitioning to the other side. You being honored as an ancestor because the work you have done, those who influence you. When you influence people, that carries on even when you transition over. That's how you become an ancestor. And you're known as that ancestor. You're known for the work that you have done. Look at Malcolm and all of these other great leaders, Nat Turner, all of these other great leaders, African leaders that have left a legacy. They've inspired people. They've influenced people to become leaders, to carry on what they established. And so now they have transitioned, but the work that the youth are doing is what they've left behind. They taught. And so they live long, they live forever.
They make sure that people will always remember them and speak their name. And it says that, again, the person who fails to make use of their wisdom becomes a fool. We're talking about elders. So also making use of wisdom also means just applying the knowledge that you gained over the years and applying it to your life, right? That's making use of the wisdom. So passing it on is one thing, applying it to your own life and living with wisdom is an elder. That's another thing. You know, people that, an elder or a person that gets older, an older person that does not do that becomes a fool, right? So, the other Odu we wanted to reference here that's relevant is Iwori Meji.
Medio.
And I'm going to read a little bit from Iwori Meji. So, Iwori Meji speaks, let me just go to this. Owe Tope, Taiwan Balagba, Lo Walk Erigbe. Ishe Webe Agbao, Maweko, Onowe to Baba and Way Fomo, Adia Form Mila, and Joa Capo, Ore Pelo Lejo, Lodo Lodumare. The hands, and you probably heard this proverb, the hands of the youth cannot reach the palm tree. The hands of the elders cannot enter a bottle-shaped calabash. The assignment with youth gives an elder, let him refuse not. These were the declarations of IFA for Oromila when his Akapo, his student, went to complain against him in the presence of Olodumare. So, this story is just saying that the youth needs the elder to reach the palm tree because the youth is too, it's too short. They may not be big enough or tall enough to reach up high. So they need the elder for that. But it says that their elder's hand is too big to enter the bottle that's shaped like a calabash to get what's inside of it. So the elder needs the youth because the youth hand is smaller to reach inside this calabash or this container to get the object that they need. So basically what IFA is saying here is that, kind of supporting what we've been saying, is saying that the elders need the youth and the youth need the elders. We cannot be independent of each other. We have to work together, in order to achieve our common goal for the greater good of the community or the nation or the family or whatever it is that we're talking about. We have to work together. The elder needs to learn from the youth needs to learn from the elder. We can't be against each other. It can't be one versus the other. The elders can't throw their youth away. The youth can't look at the elders, oh, they old, and they don't know what they're talking about. We see that all the time. Yeah. The youth, they don't want to listen to wise counsel. To a lot of them, don't want to listen to wise counsel and advice from us as if we haven't been through that before. And we all remember being young and looking at people trying to talk to us and looking at them and they look, I don't know, it's weird when you're young because you look at older men or older people different, like they're so far removed from you and they don't know what you're doing and what you've been through, not realizing that they have and they just trying to help.
But see, I think that's an American thing. That's in America.
It's a Western, America, Europe.
It's like
it's a Western concept for sure.
The musicians will tell you, like, when you reach in your 40s, it's like you're old. You're too old to make music. You know what I mean? You can't make no music no more because you're old. That's in America. When a woman gets in her mid 40s, it's like in America, in the United States, it's like, oh, you're old, you done. But you go to places like Italy, they love women, they love older women. Younger men love older women in certain countries. I think it's only here in the United States, in this Western paradigm that we live in, is that when somebody reach in their late 40s or their early 50s, it's like, oh, you done. It's like that kind of mentality. But when you travel to other countries, they got a whole different view of your age. And I think it's the culture. It's the culture. Like the American culture teaches, when you old. It's like, you old, you can't do nothing no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in other countries, when you old, they respect you more. It's like you can do more. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a whole different way of looking at it. Yeah.
It's a cultural thing. You know what I mean? I think with African culture, men's society, women's, the family for one, it's like it teaches that, like with Iwori Meiji, it's like, when I see Warren Major and what you read also, it's like, it's a social thing where the communication between the youth and the elders has to happen in order for the next generation or the future to be bright. The elders and the youth
That's what it's saying.
have to communicate. If there's a cutoff, then there's no growth and development.
Yeah.
There's no understanding. A youth don't know how do I respect an elder?
Right.
And then the elder don't know how do I respect the youth, or how do I communicate with these youth? How do I connect with the youth?
Guy.
Right. So it's I think American culture, this Western paradigm, kind of shuns away from the respect, because it's like, if you're younger, then you got more energy and you can do more things. So they don't worry about, they don't look at wisdom, they look at how much work you can do.
Yeah.
You're young, so let me put you to work. That's like, to me, that's like that same slave mentality. It's like, but American culture don't teach, oh, let me work with them because they're wiser.
Yeah.
It's like, let me get that young youth because they can do more work.
Yeah, they're workhorse.
You know, they're workhorse. And this society is based on being a workhorse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's where that mentality comes from. And I think even with, slavery, where the African families were broken up, that whole Willie Lynch syndrome, on our people is where we're at today, and why we elders and youth in our African communities can't see eye to eye, because that separation thing, you know what I mean? And I think we are growing and beginning to understand our culture more and starting to implement those things, but I think we still have a problem, even with African men and African women. How do we respect each other?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big problem.
That's another podcast right there.
I know I'm always saying these things.
That's a good one, though.
But we got to look at that.
Men and women, how do we respect each other and get along better? So we're going to do a podcast on that coming up soon.
Because this thing is like dominance.
Yeah.
We living in a society is who's going to be dominant.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be dominant over you.
Right.
So the youth now are like, if you look at it now, like the respect level amongst youth to elders is gone.
Yeah.
It's like, it's no more.
It's
like,
definitely not where it should be. It's just not
it's
that great.
And then the vice versa. Like the elders, because some of the elders say, well, I ain't messing with the youth because they think they know everything. You know what I mean?
And there's really no excuse, because some of the youth do think that, but that doesn't excuse you from the duty that you have as an elder.
Yes.
Because it's not everybody. Yeah, it's gonna be some people, but don't worry about that. You're supposed to work with the people that get it, that you can work with.
Because you never know whose heart you can touch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And change your life, as they say. Like, you don't know some of these youth out here, they may look like man, some of the brightest young men that I met was in the hood, as they say.
Oh, yeah.
But somebody from the outside would look at them and be like, oh, they ignorant, they dead. And they walk around with their pants sagging and stuff like that. Yeah, I ain't into all that pants sagging, because we know what that is about. But I've met some of these young men, I'm like, whoa, this is bright.
Be real.
You know what I mean?
Jesus.
They're bright. They just need some elders to tell them that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to let them know you're brilliant.
Yeah, because and then not going into this, looking at it from another angle now, we're going to go into this where you got some elders that they've forgotten what they used to do when they were young.
Yes. Oh,
and now they,
ego.
Yeah, they holier than thou now, and they're so far up here, but that was doing the same thing or worse when they were that age, so that some of them, you know, they tripping out on that type of thing now too, and using that as an excuse to not connect with the younger generation. And we've seen this with our own two wives. You know, some things can be really, really petty things that we've seen certain elders, you know, use as an excuse to disconnect, to disengage, to not come around and not communicate and help out this younger generation that's trying our best to carry on what y'all started.
Right.
I've seen people in person with my own two eyes make oaths.
Oh man.
Make certain oaths to Oyatunji Kingdom, to this movement, to the culture, to us and our age group, and they have not upheld or stayed true to those oaths that they were going to be around and that they were going to help out and lend their hand and help you give their wisdom and help, you know, consult and help us to move this culture forward because of some petty, you know, things that they have made their mind up that, well, I'm gonna cut my youth off because of, you know, this and that, like forgetting that they were once younger too. So now that they're older, now they too. It's like the holy rollers in church almost. They
high and mighty.
High and mighty and too holy to, you know, like
holier than thou.
Gotta cut that out.
I know a lot. It's like
you can't say no names, but
yes, like you're absolutely right because I know some elders that have taken oaths to support the next generation of chiefs in Oyatunji, and those elders have turned their back because of whatever reason. You know, they turned their back. They don't want to have nothing to do with that anymore. But you help build that. You help establish that village.
Yeah.
You've taught and raised some of the same youth that are now chiefs.
Yeah.
Now you turn your back because you don't agree with something. And we're not gonna always agree. Everybody, so we need the elders there to support us when we're about to make a mistake.
Or if we made a mistake.
That's
why you're there. Like, we need you. You know, and then some of these elders, let's just keep it real, don't even have good relationships with their own children.
Yes.
With their own families.
Yeah,
that is not the example to lead by. I get it. Everybody's not always gonna have a perfect relationship with their kids, but I'm talking about you don't get along with, you don't talk to none of your kids. Like, you don't have a good relationship with, you know, that to me is that it shows that you need to look in the mirror. And an example of a true elder, you know, it shouldn't be that way.
What's that do? Obey Warring that says sometimes you gotta look back in your past.
You gotta go back.
In order for you
lessons.
Right. So you might have to step back and you might have to retrace
fix
back
some stuff.
and fix some stuff before you can even move towards the future or you can continue
your
journey. So
So,
you know, I think a lot of elders, and this happens in a lot of, you know, I've seen it, and the reason why I can say I've seen it in Tunji because I grew up in Tunji. I've seen, you know, elders who helped build Oyatunji, and then they turned their back, or they got what they wanted, and then they left and turned their back, and you don't see them no more. You know what I mean? And then when you do run into them, it's like they expecting a dough ballet or something. You know what I mean? But I know this happens in a lot of organizations. Islam.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It happens everywhere.
It's
It's a human thing.
Right, exactly. And so the thing is, we have to, That's why I love IFA, because IFA has a remedy for everything. Like what Iwari Meiji says, it's like it's right there. You know what I mean? It's the whole whole verse right there says it. It says it all. Like elders and youth need each other. You know what I mean? We need each other. So the elders shouldn't turn their back on the youth.
And the youth shouldn't
ignore the elders. Ignore the elders.
So we have
by no means.
Several elders that we talk to now that are active, that you know, that we talk to, that give us advice, that you know, we exchange information. Like, so shout out, like I said again, to
elders.
All those elders. You know who you are, and for the ones that aren't, we here. We need to let's reach out. Let's talk to each other. Let's create a platform. I was just talking to my brother before the podcast, saying that we need to do an event next year at Oyatunzi Village where we're honoring, you know, certain elders in the community that have exemplified true eldership. So be on the lookout for that. We're definitely going to be doing that. We want to honor our elders, and we also want to have a panel where we have the younger generation and the older generation, and let's exchange ideas. Let's talk about what's working, what's not working. You know, give us some advice and some feedback and some share some knowledge and wisdom that y'all think can help us, and vice versa. So,
but guess what?
What?
We the new elders, brother.
We the new elders. We the new junior elders.
The new junior elders.
Yeah.
Like, I
ain't 64 yet, brother. Don't do that.
but we are the
new elders.
We are in that mid-age bracket.
Coming up.
So
I'm 49.
You know, I'm 51.
51. So
I'm waiting on
right there.
Yeah, and I'm loving the elders that are around me. That's supportive and that says y'all doing a good job.
Yeah, that means that means everything to us.
Wow. And this is what else y'all should do, giving us that advice. And we're actually using it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that shows the respect. We try to implement it as best we can.
Yeah.
So Ashe.
That cannot be stated enough. We really do appreciate all that. We love all the feedback that we get, but when we get feedback from the elders that are saying that they approve of what we're doing, and that they appreciate what we're doing, and that they're proud of us, and that when we get that feedback from the elders, it's definitely extra special. So shout out to all the elders that are exemplifying true eldership. This has been another episode. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. If you have questions, or if you need divination or any services, please email LetsTalkIFA@gmail.com. I am Awo-Ifa Jaminire.
I am Awo-Ifa Tegunshe.
And you were tuned into
the best,
the greatest
podcast
on
the planet Earth. Let's talk IFA. Ashe.